Alright. My wife is trying to do some paneling with models or something. And so she's excited to learn how to do the painting and whatnot. So many crawlers. Oh, we scooted him. I don't think we wanted to do that. Oh well, looks like we're gonna be okay. But yeah, a battle system like this can only last so long, right? Either you've sunk or swim. Swum? Sunk or swum. Swam. At this point, because Brian is responsible for all of your party's roles, and the game isn't introducing anything new, right? The game essentially forces you to keep acquiring more power by raising the stats of the monsters. But the monsters themselves don't really change. Essentially, the monsters, in fact, the models, to a point, don't even matter. They're just models that use spells that a lot of them you have access to as a player. Like, even that, that arrow spell that they're using, I believe, is a fire spell. And it works very similar to the water or the wind spell, where it's like you get a level 1 version that shoots out 3 arrows, and then a level 2 version that shoots out 6 arrows, or something like that. And once you know how to deal with the spells in general, because that, again, that is the fun part of the game, is learning the quirks of every single spell and what's the best way to dodge them. Once you learn all that, this part sucks. Okay, we're just gonna keep taking a left turn. Once you learn all that, it really doesn't change from one enemy to another. Sometimes the height of an enemy or the model of an enemy will slightly change the way a spell works. Such as when we were fighting the Wyvern, we knew that if he walked over and tried to use the Fire level 2 spell on us, he would miss, because his model's so high up in the air. But aside from weird quirks like that, you essentially approach each spell the same, and a lot of the times, especially at the point of the game that we're at now, you don't even need to really try and fight them in an intelligent way. Like, we don't really need to dodge the spells anymore. We will when we can, but I'm not going to bother because it's not really relevant. And at that point, the game is no longer introducing new things to you. And it relies completely on Brian as a character to introduce new elements to the game. So it's not like the monsters are fighting you differently, it's that Brian is fighting differently. And then, you know, you gain more spells, you learn how to fight the way you like, you find a good strategy, and then once you've cemented that strategy, suddenly the game stops introducing new things. Which is the point of the game that we're at now. We've reached a point where we've mastered all the enemy spells. We're not really seeing anything new. We've got our spells set up. And so from a game design standpoint, we've kind of reached the end. We aren't going to be receiving any new things that drastically change the way the game needs to be played. We're not learning anything new. We're not required to overcome any new challenges. We're just rinsing and repeating everything we've learned from the game prior. And it's possible this is where, I don't know, I would say that this is the point where people think that this game is bad, is when they've reached this point in the game. But I don't think most people who don't like the game have even made it to this point. I think a lot of them... Oh, shoot. Do we go up? Do we even want to go up? I'm worried that this is the correct way, and I don't want to go the correct way. Let's go up and we'll see where this takes us. If we see something that looks like an exit, we'll turn around. It's kind of weird. You've noticed they started throwing skelebats at us, which were monsters from Cull Hazard, as well as the scarecrows, which were also monsters from Cull Hazard. So they start mixing in some weaker enemies halfway through this dungeon. I'm not sure why they would do that. If you were doing it for a mechanical reason, you would assume that you would introduce the weaker monsters at the beginning of the dungeon, and the stronger monster sets exclusively near the middle or the end. That way it's the final leg of the journey, pushing the players to be challenged. But to introduce them midway through almost seems more like mechanically a reprieve, which you do need one at this point of the dungeon. If you've made it this far, you've probably already proven that you can make it through this point already. So introducing weaker monsters doesn't really help the player, it just makes the dungeon go quicker. It's not even like it takes that much time to... or rather, the weaker enemies don't even occupy that large of a portion of the dungeon. Yeah, I think I'd like to ask whoever made the decision to put those in there, like, what was their thought process? Not because I think it's wrong, I just wonder. I'm gonna be really upset if we get up here and this is actually the correct path and we have to come all the way back. In fact, it's starting to look what this is like. Would the incorrect path last this long? Probably not. We were taking a left turn, right? In that big room with the crystals or whatever. Were there crystals? There's water. We were walking on ice. How did we kill the one far away first? Okay, what else we got? We got Spirit Armor level 1 from Earth. Kinda useless. Gosh darn it. Looks like this is the correct way. We'll have to go back. This is a part of the crystal caves that I am not very familiar with. Because as a child, I could never map it out in my head correctly. And as an adult, I never bothered to do it in any way other than pick a turn and just keep making that turn. It is interesting, though, because of the nature of spells and damage being done not in a very inflated way. Not to say that there aren't later enemies that do deal a lot more damage to you. I guess what I'm trying to say is, you remember when we went off to Greenock Forest, and there were monsters there that were way stronger than us? But we didn't just die instantly. And here we're fighting monsters that are way weaker than us, in the form of the Scarecrow and the Skelebats. But they can still deal damage, so they're still sort of relevant. A lot of RPGs, especially like the Final Fantasy games, if you run into an enemy from a dungeon ago, they're probably dealing 1 damage to you, and you're dealing like, you know, 999 damage to them, and they're totally irrelevant. Whereas due to the fact that your stats don't really explode in Quest 64, they very slowly increment. And the game's been designed around that, so it means that when you run into a super powerful enemy, if you fight intelligently, you can probably take it down. Kind of like the Wyverns. And if you run into a weaker enemy, I mean, you're still gonna win the fight. Like this guy, like the Blood Gel. What is this guy doing? We're gonna win this. But we can't deal 999 damage, and so he's gonna get a couple hits on us. It makes the Blood Gel still relevant, which means you can introduce weaker enemies into the battle sets like this. And it's not necessarily completely pointless. It is a little bit of a waste of time on the player, though. I doubt we're getting very much spirit EXP from killing them. I suppose it would be a good opportunity to drain some mana if we needed it, but we just don't. I will admit, though, the Skelebats are pretty weak. They seem to be weak to water, though. But we should soul search them and test that. See if they're the fire element. Anyway. In spite of this part of the dungeon being a twisty maze of passageways, or walkways, I should say, I really like this room. I love how it's completely open, and you can see things, like, off in the distance. Like, you're like, oh man, there's a spirit over there. I want to go get that spirit. Oh, there's a treasure chest. I want to get that. But, like, you're still stuck on what is essentially a labyrinth. It's really cool. Like, imagine if these were walls, right? Like, we were stuck in a cave running around like this. It would be no fun. We would be so trapped and have no clue where we were going. But this way, the player gets to kind of see where they want to go, but they still have to take the correct path. Like a garden hedge maze without the hedges. There's two spirits over there. Wait, we were taking lefts. We'll just take a left here. Oops. Hang on, is this the way we came? Shoot! The always go left strategy doesn't work. Yeah, it's possible that, depending on the way the floor plan is laid out, going left won't work. If there are paths inside of paths. Alright, well, we know there's two spirits in this room. Let's go check it out. As long as we can get those two spirits, I think I'm happy. Like, we don't need to get something else. Okay, these guys fire? No, they're wind. Do they just have really bad water defense? I think wind is traditionally weak to earth, so what about rock level 2 here? 27. That is not a lot of damage. I don't know. Do all enemies have an invisible elemental defense? I mean, it says that thing is wind. Oh, this isn't the right path. I don't think there's anything over there. Let's go this way. Okay, it looks like we made it. Probably rock level 3 is the next earth spell we'll get. Okay, we just need to get that one. Silly bats. Alright. I would assume it's this way. Maybe. Where'd it go? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm a dungeon crawler at heart. But if I'm gonna do a dungeon, I want it to look interesting. Right? A lot of JRPGs, or at least especially old sprite-based ones, dungeons are just a series of sprite tile sets of square corridors endlessly looping around. You just have to find the correct path. Quest 64's dungeons are big and expansive. They're kind of pretty looking. And because acquiring spirits for your elements is always relevant, or at least, I shouldn't say it's always relevant. I mean, it's not really relevant now, but it's still fun. It's still fun to get new spells, even if you don't need them. It means that exploring and being rewarded with the spirits is kind of always a good reward. That's the other thing. Like, I'm just thinking back to some of the old Final Fantasy games, like especially the early ones, like Final Fantasy 1 and 2. It was like, okay, go explore this dungeon. There's tons of treasure chests. If you open them, you get money. And it's like, yay, money. That's exciting. Yeah, wait, what's that other thing? It's not exciting. But, yeah. I don't, certainly have never designed my own fully built game before. And I've never worked on a real professional video game. But I would imagine, or rather not imagine, it is my personal opinion that if you're going to reward the player with something, give them something valuable. Give them something that changes the way the game is played, or at least gives them something they can't get elsewhere. And it doesn't have to be a piece of equipment that... Wow, I'm really on a soapbox right now. I need to shut up. I guess all I'm saying is, I like games where a number isn't your reward, right? I think most people do. Even if it's something silly. Like, imagine if there were treasure chests scattered about the world that changed Brian's cape color. That would probably be enough of a reward to go out and find them. You can't go too deep in that, though, where games are like, collect the 450 cosmetic items that are scattered about the world! And you just spend the entire game, like, running around picking up these pointless things that change your character's clothes. It's probably best done in, like... This might sound a little heartless, but probably the best way to do something like that is put just enough of them in to make them relevant, but, like, few enough the player is still wanting more, but not quite gotten more. We players in a game are horrible creatures. We ask for things. We're like, oh, give us this. We want more weapons. We want more armor. And then the moment that we have them, it reaches like a critical point where we're just drowning in content. And we're just like, everything is pointless. I'm not happy anymore. Like, imagine if they added like 6 more elements to this game. And I'd be like, oh, this is so cool! And eventually I'd just be like, only 2 elements are viable. All the other elements are pointless. My life is pointless. So, sometimes simple is better. I mean, in general, games are just a very complicated balancing act of so many things working together to produce something that people like. You can even make a good game that people don't like. It's not because your game isn't good, it's just because people don't like it. Plenty of indie games suffer from that. Or they suffer from obscurity. So the people who love them, but very few people know about them. I don't know. I guess it's kind of like the world in general. You can be a person who's totally awesome and off of everyone's radar. And that doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. You're just not on people's radar. Probably got people at work like that. Alrighty. Let's get back into... I feel like... I don't even know how I got on that tangent. I think it was probably because we're not doing anything important in this game. We're just running around this part of the dungeon doing random stuff. What do we get here? Looks like we just got another healing potion. The Celtland healing potions are decent. Healing 150 is usually relevant at all points of the game. Near the very end of the game, it might not be useful. I'm kind of curious, what element is this guy? Earth? I'm gonna guess Earth. No, Wind. I don't know why I thought he was Earth. Probably because I think everything Call Hazard is Earth. Even though it's totally not. So I honestly can't remember what happens once we go through the cavern up here. We are going to run into the lass named Epona, which confused the heck out of me as a kid. Is it a reference to Epona from Zelda? Or is it literally they just named her Epona? I'd have to check the time that these games came out. I would imagine the Ocarina of Time came out before Quest 64, but I want to say that Quest 64 came out relatively early in the N64's life. But that's just... I'm trying to remember, like, when Quest 64 was available. I'm pretty sure it was one of the early titles, which is another reason I can forgive it for a lot of its problems. If it really was an early title. Aiden Chronicles, though. Whew. Ooh. I know I keep getting ahead of ourselves. I really want to play Aiden Chronicles. We're gonna get to it, don't worry. Aiden Chronicles, though, came out pretty late in the N64's life. Oh, excellent. We're at the end. I know it's silly. I love this room. It's also weird because this music that we hear, I think this is one of the only places we hear it. I don't know. It just kind of feels like the artists were just having fun with this room. Why is this room like this? Why does it have these cool neon green, yellow pillars of ice? Oh, spirit. Still no rock level 2. Oh, we got rolling rock, though. But yeah. I don't know. Pretty room. This is the only time we'll be here. To my knowledge. Do we warp back? I don't think so. Oh well. Here we have Epona and her adorable mascot, Chappie. You are past the Blue Cave now. Did the crossing make you tired? There's not much you can do except to stop here for a rest. Well, if we were playing on a non-emulator, we would be very happy to save the game. And then this is Epona. Yes, didn't expect a long-nosed crone, did you? With bright blue lock of braided hair. So you are Brian. Your reputation grows with every victory. My name is Epona. You have the magic jewel, do you not? But only a true magician will be able to use it. It's true, the L-Tale book has been stolen. 1,000 years ago, a great war broke out over the possession of the book. But no one knew the truth behind the book's power. No one must ever open the L-Tale book. If its power is released, it will be the end of all we know. That is why the L-Tale book must be recovered and returned to its safekeeping in the monastery. Starting from the stone circle in the innermost room, go to the Isle of Skye in Loch Kildery. There you will find the precious stone of water, of the water spirit. Ask the sorceress Colleen to let you borrow it. Chances are, it's not going to be that simple, is it? You know, this is our stone circle that we're going to jump on. It pops us onto this boat. We run into this pirate. Kiliak. Hey, where did you blow in from? It takes a plucky devil to sneak aboard my pirate ship. A magician, huh? These days, the seas are strange. Waves as tall as the mast, tossing ships around like corks. How are we pirates going to make a living? We heard there's a sorceress who performs water magic over on the Isle of Skye. Since you are a magician, maybe you can help us get her to calm the sea. Welcome aboard. You can rest in the cabin till we make port. I'm not entirely certain, but Kiliak might have been the name of the third party member. So this is... And he was a pirate. I do know he was a pirate. So this is probably the third party member you were supposed to get on your team. But he, of course, doesn't join us. They do another transition thing here where you go into the cabin, and then when you walk out, the boat has moved elsewhere. Hey there, shorty. If you want to lie down, go right ahead. What shall it be? Yeah, okay. We just saved the game, but fine. But yeah, so what you do is you come in here, and I think this is what triggers the movement. I'm amazed you got aboard this pirate ship so easily. Our captain must have given you a pass, otherwise you'd be pushing up seaweed right about now. But if you're really a magician, maybe you can calm the seas, so that next we can seek our next plunder. Yeah, I guess these guys are pretty chill with you just popping onto their ship unannounced and taking all their stuff. We're the hero! Dragon's Potion, that one's pretty good if I remember. Yeah, full MP recovery. Alright, we should have been finishing our journey on the boat. Yeah, Kiliak is gone. We find a lot of spirits on this isle. If I remember. We ran into... yeah, here's another one. Oh, come on! Pixie. Oh, they did name these ones Pixie. That must have been why the others were named Temptress. Unfortunately, the Pixies suffer from the same problem of being impossible to target! So we're just gonna leave them alone. I think there's one more spirit around the corner of the building? Probably. Yep. The reason they give you all these spirits is because they want you to level up your water magic. In fact, if you go in here, they tell you to. But of course we don't need to, because we've already done that. Alright. Colleen is here. I am the sorceress of Loch Kildery. With that staff, you must be from the monastery. So you can't be a friend of this greedy pirate. He makes me boil every time I see him. He blames me for the rough water on the lake and says it was my fault that the water jewel was stolen. But the wretch who stole it is the one who riles the waves. They say she tossed the water jewel from the stone circle deep into the lake. I'm afraid my magic can't reach it. When you fight her, try to save your magic for healing. You will need it. It seems like the lake is riled up because a priceless treasure was stolen from it. It's a fantastic gemstone filled with the power of water. What a weak sorceress she is. How could we believe the thief got to the lake bottom? Only a powerful magician could break the barrier and go that deep. Guess we can't save our game here. Although I guess we could go back onto the ship and rest. This is a totally normal enemy. Seriously, who designed this? It was like, let's make some pencil fish that hop around and look really happy. My goodness, stop dodging. Guess we could try our rock spell. It'd be better if I hit with it. I'm not very good with Earth. I'm gonna say that now. Pretty terrible with Earth. Got the weakness spell. I'll probably never use that. Okay, we hit one of them. Clearly not the route we want to go. Ah, they have a lot of HP. Got one. Missed? Twice? Okay, we're good now.